The NFL. There's no time quite like the beginning of fall. All the teams start anew with a sense of hope yet to be tested. They put on their shiny new helmets and commence to physically annihilate each other for fantasy leagues and the plebes' general amusement. Oh, you thought this would be an endearing look at the NFL with a sheen of wonderment in our eyes like the games your daddy watched? This ain't the league of Staubach and Bradshaw anymore, chump. This is a league where we wonder how full Tom's balls really are. Where there's more dirt on Michael Vick than your average quarterback. You want long stretches of green? You got it. You want deep bombs to Manti Te'o's girlfriend and butt fumbles galore? You got it. Unclear catch rules? You got it. So hang in there, or take a knee, and enjoy.
When you're coming in there is a good chance that you're going to be very hard.
I've got big balls! I've got big balls! They're such big balls, and they're fancy big balls! And he's got big balls, and she's got big balls! But we've got the best balls of them all!
Welcome to Black Angus Reviews. I'm Black Angus, and today we'll be taking an in-depth look at NFL Confidential, True Confessions from the Gutter of Football by Johnny Anonymous, chronicling a player's experience during the 2014-15 NFL season, with the goal of giving the reader a candid look inside the NFL, behind the scenes, and brutally honest. The book stands out with the player's mouth taped shut and the tag, "I'm an NFL player, and I fucking hate the NFL." I really enjoyed reading NFL Confidential. It's smoothly written from a seemingly candid point of view. It is only about 240 pages, so an easy read overall. Having Johnny Anonymous take us behind the scenes really shows how similar the football locker culture is to the military. Politically incorrect, humorously racist with each other, and all suffering through the pains of the NFL life to sustain a career. Also comparable to the military is the incessant forced meetings to train members about whatever social issue is at hand in the media, like the Ray Rice incident or sensitivity training in response to Michael Sam's drafting. Like it or love it, Anonymous surmises that at the end of the day, the only concern of the NFL is their image and profitability. And while the NFL probably has little to nothing to fear from this book, it's a nice peek behind the curtain for a fan from a seemingly likable writer. The book starts by defining what Johnny deems are the three categories of NFL players. 20% do it because they're true believers. They're smart enough to do something else if they wanted, and the money is nice and all, but really, they just love football. They love it. They live it. They believe in it. It's their creed. They would be nothing without it. Hell, they'd probably pay the league to play if they had to. These guys are obviously psychotic. 30% of them do it just for the money, so they could do something else. Sales, desk jockeys, accountant, whatever. But they play football because it is just so damn good. And it is good. And last of all, 49.99% play football because, frankly, it's the only thing they know how to do. Even if they wanted to do something normal, they couldn't. All they've ever done in their lives is play football. It was their way out, either of the hood or the deep woods country. They need football. If football didn't exist, they'd be homeless, in a gang, or maybe in prison. Then there's me. I'm part of my own little weird minority, that final 0.01%. We're such a minority, we don't even count as a category. We're the professional players who flat out hate professional football. I can't say enough how similar these defined categories are to the military. It's almost uncanny. Alright, Johnny Anonymous, I'm relating to you more and more, and it's only page 4. From the get-go, Johnny enlightens the reader to the state of the NFL and its players. He points out what I, an avid fan, have come to realize, that professional sports is a sort of high-priced volunteer slavery. To beat the league at its own game of chewing up players and spitting them out, Johnny's plan is to be the NFL's best backup, because when you're a backup, you don't have to do anything barring injury, and you make thousands per game. But there's just one catch. Johnny has to make the team. That's right, it's the start of training camp, so this guy isn't shit yet. His competition is a guy who was a backup last year, heavily favored for the spot he covets, and the coaches confidently call him by the wrong name, because in training camp, if you ain't first, you're last.
You ain't first, you're last.
For those of you who don't know, the league allows teams 90 players to start camp into preseason, with 53 spots being the final team. So after the 22 starters, there's just 31 spots left for 68 guys to fight for, being whittled down periodically prior to the start of regular season. How'd you think the league crafted the best talent anyway? By singing Kumbaya? It's the fucking purge, baby. And our boy Johnny is on the third string with less time than Pete to make an impression. Johnny likes to have his own persona, not being too hard-nosed like some of the purists in the league, or uptight like those preachy types. Instead, he goes for funny, uncomfortable, calling the most homophobic ones in the locker room baby and such. He goes on to describe the motley crew that is the typical locker room by the different cliques that naturally form in the league. You have the specialist, kicker, punter, long snapper, also known as the average-looking white guys, usually quirky guys with too much time on their hands. Then you have the loudmouth preacher types, usually the linebackers or tight ends. The old vets that have an aura akin to an up-close encounter with a blue whale, magnificent and terrifying all the same. The white ones don't usually cross with the blacks on the team, but an old vet isn't deterred by the self-defined boundaries if need be. There's the occasional Samoan lineman, meatheads with an ethnic twist. The divas, who are arrogant, selfish, and outspoken. Always a receiver or defensive back. These guys blow all their money on the most ridiculous and lavish accessories, especially if they are a star player. And finally, you have the quarterback, the lifeless, personality-void automatron that's always spouting some leadership crap, even though his athletic foundation is shakier than an Etch-a-Sketch in the hands of Michael J. Fox. It's the 2014 draft, and the Rams make news by drafting Michael Sam, the first openly gay player. After the spark he causes in the NFL, the league now requires sensitivity training, much to the irritation of all the players. Johnny notes the clear homophobia that one should expect in the league, given the hyper-masculine culture full of white hillbillies and blacks immersed in rap culture, along with the entirety being largely Christians. No one wants to have a gay in a sport where men shower together and wear tights. The locker room is supposed to be a place where guys can let their guard down, and a gay man will never be accepted in the culture.
You sound like a gay.
Later on, Johnny introduces his O-line coach named Lopez, who comically is a southern-voiced fat Hispanic. Lopez came from a huge college team with plenty of accolades, but in the NFL, it being his first NFL season, that doesn't mean shit. Not only does he have to earn the head coach's respect, but also the line he's coaching, all earning more than him. Johnny is damned and determined to get his coach's attention and make the roster, putting all he has into the first practice, smoking the competition. But, as luck would have it, he's not ever seen, as they're only concerned with Paulson, the now recovered backup. Aside from the lack of coach recognition, Johnny deals with the problem of being too skinny a lineman. He's 279, with 285 being the mythic minimum accepted, barring the center position. Everyone wants a 300-plus pound prototype. To make weight, Johnny suffers, gorging himself on chicken and rice and trying to keep his shit in for the extra pound or two it can give him. Aside from struggling to maintain a lineman weight, he fights against the realization that even if he makes the weight, he can get cut. He's expendable. Like the military, it treats you like shit, then leaves you wanting more. After explaining his situation, Johnny gives us a recap of how he even came to find football. Unlike most successful people in football, Johnny's not from a broken home, or subject to drugs in a trailer park, or gangs in a hood. Instead, he's a real mommy's boy, even when he was too old to really be one. When he was 11, his mom was diagnosed with cancer. To reduce her suffering, they made a makeshift hospital room and an office at home. When she finally passed, an anger was born within Johnny that football quenched. After freshman year, Johnny accelerated at football and started the rest of his career. Johnny's talents landed him in a premier college, but it seems that's where Johnny's love of football started to dwindle, it becoming less and less fun and more a full-time job. Things only got worse for Johnny as he tore his MCL and ACL his junior year. Given his Frankenstein knees and his small size, Johnny was doubted to be an NFL prospect, but he was picked in the 6th round. For 2 years, his team rained love on him, but that came to a screeching halt when, due to having the same agent as the line coach, a rookie was slotted to take his spot. Once Johnny has surmised his path to the NFL, we resume training camp, where he's still fighting to make weight. So each week on the evening before his weigh-in, he eats until he's gorged. Quote, "When I wake up, my colon feels like it's going to explode. Like there's a midget punching me in the gut with every step," he writes. "But I hold that little man in. He's not going anywhere. So for every breakfast, he slams pancakes. And here, just like in school, the clique's set together. The O-line trends white, the D-line black, and the skill players always black. When he's not playing or working at the facilities, Johnny just wants to relax at the mall and be unrecognized. Maybe find something on sale. A lot of players become dorm rats, just playing video games, or polar opposite, and club every minute available. Johnny even breaks down how the whites and blacks do it, with the white guys starting drinking and ending up at strip clubs, and vice versa for the black guys. During the training/preseason time in the NFL, there's someone that nearly every man is scared of. Not the coach or GM, nor the owner. It's the Reaper. Usually some little snot assistant from the GM, sneaking up on guys least suspecting, and summoning them before their fate, whittling the team from 90 to the maximum 53-man roster. Luckily for Johnny, his competition is injured, thus allowing him to showcase his worth. Now, the coaches know his name. A guy named G.I. Joe, a former military serviceman, is a lineman on the team. Johnny points out how he'll probably be kept on the team for the patriotic publicity it entails, bringing to mind the offensive lineman for the Steelers, who's also made himself a controversial figure with the NFL kneeling fiasco. Unfortunately, Joe is cut, but finds a home at a team Johnny plays against later in the season. The mentioning of the former service member being exploited for publicity points just goes to remind me of the double standard the league and the fans have with politics and sports. It's all fine and dandy to incorporate the nation's flag into their logos and wave the flag, and have military jets waste tax dollars to fly over the field, but people peacefully protest and they're up in arms. Unfortunately, this book was written before Kaepernick's PR stunt, so we're unable to get a player's perspective on that. Most of the book following is light fare and does little to enlighten a fan on any further goings-on. It does shed light on how even a veteran player is ultimately expendable if injuries ensue, and how it makes players predatory to each other's predicaments if they are to succeed. We see Johnny come up the ranks and earn his fellow players and coaches' respect as he earns a starting role in place of an injured starter, and how he also ends up striving to keep that starting role despite all he loathes about the league. One interesting point Johnny comments on is the league's reception of the Ray Rice video, in which he hits his then-fiancée unconscious and drags her out of an elevator like a ragdoll. Johnny notes how the league rewards hyper-aggression in players and how most of the guys don't learn how to turn that off when off the field. He asks the reader to laugh at the league predicament as, to combat this, at least for public response, they treat the players to more seminars about abuse, all while they have the cheerleaders doing a naked photo shoot for a Christmas calendar conducted by a creepy photographer. Of course, all the players disavow Ray Rice and what he did, but the media paints the league as full of abusers anyway. It's Johnny's opinion that, despite the league's firm stance that they did not know about the video, they surely must have seen that before the public and tried to brush it under the rug. In case you don't recall, Rice originally had a 2-game suspension. The league knows when you had a speeding ticket in high school. Of course they knew. Like I said, most of the book is light fare. For instance, a guy shits himself after getting hit hard, and Johnny lets us know that defecating is a norm on NFL lines, and that some become the proverbial Billy Madisons on their team. The book ends different than it began. Johnny seems to say, hey, maybe I was wrong. I do love football, but I know I can't do this forever. He wants to keep going a little bit longer, but knows he'll leave before the game does damage too serious to walk away from. In the end, Johnny seems a bit hopeful for the future and content with whatever happens, as his always supportive dad has a business to venture in together. The joy of playing the game he grew up with is back, a simple pleasure, here to stay. Thank you for watching, and if you've made it this far, know it's been a pleasure bringing this to you. Please like and subscribe for future content concerning film, philosophy, and the NFL. Also, check out the channel's Facebook page, Black Angus Reviews, and join the group for interesting articles and hilarious memes. I'm Black Angus. Have a great night.
Not because of that, it's not because of money. Works in my blood and I'm killed because I'm hungry.